we go. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Once again, good evening and welcome to Kean University. My name is Ada Morel. I am a proud Kean alum, and I am currently serve as chair of the Kean University Board of Trustees. Tonight, as our campus celebration of Women's History Month continues, we are delighted to present a compelling panel discussion and an alumni networking event during which we will learn about the many amazing things that can happen when women lead. We have a wonderful program planned for you, featuring some of the most accomplished and successful women in the state of New Jersey. All of tonight's participants come from diverse backgrounds in every sense of the word, and they each have a unique story to share with you. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is a rising star in the New Jersey political scene. Assemblywoman Annette Quijano has earned a reputation as a champion legislator who stands up for the middle-class families, seniors, veterans, women, children, and workers. She represents the 20th Legislative District encompassing the city of Elizabeth, Hillside Township, Roselle Borough, and Union Township, and is chairwoman of the Assembly Homeland Security and Preparedness Committee, vice chair of the Assembly Consumer Affairs Committee, and a member of the Assembly Appropriations Committee. She is also a municipal prosecutor of the city of Elizabeth. Assemblywoman Quijano currently chairs the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators Delegation on Racial Equity and is vice chair of the Board of Hispanic Caucus Chairs. Additionally, she's a member of the NAACP, the New Jersey State Bar Association, and the Women's Political Caucus of New Jersey. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Annette Quijano.
Good evening. Well, I'm glad that we filled the seats because I, for one, was a little concerned with the weather. And so even though it's pouring out there, it's nice and sunny in here with everyone. I'm excited to see so many women in a room. Most of the rooms I usually am in are the other way around. Sometimes I'm the only woman in the room, or there might be one other, and we do that knowing glance over like, yeah, you and me here. And sometimes I'm the only woman or person of color in the room. And so I always check where I am because I think it's important to know who's in the room. I'm happy to be back here at Kean University. Many of you don't know that I actually was an adjunct professor and taught transition to Kean. And believe me, if you took my class, you would know it. We always talked about whatever was happening in the day, in the news. And when individuals had to write some of the assignments, you would see a little bit of what was going on in the news. Sometimes they hadn't seen what was happening, and other times they did. But I always try to make the students comfortable, and I always wanted them to know that they had a voice and that they had the power. I'm excited because this is the first time that I joined the Alumni Relations Office in putting together an event. And I can tell you that they were fabulous and great to work with. I also want to thank the participants that you're going to hear from today for taking time out of their busy lives to impart their personal wisdom, advice, and experience to us. We have a great mix of young women, because I see some of my Elizabeth High School young ladies here. And let's say some of us, the more mature women. But each of us has a story. We have our past, we have our present, and we're looking for our future. Just as important, we have a collective story of our past, present, and future. It's very easy to live in the moment and lose touch of the individuals and the movements that have helped bring us to this moment. And when each link in a chain no longer holds on to the next, we not only lose those personal stories, we lose their victories. we lose the momentum that they work so hard to move us forward. The momentum of progress for women's equality has grown and grown over the past century and a half. We have literally went from unable to own property or vote to being CEOs of some of the largest companies in the world, and a woman actually received more votes for president than anyone else did. The successes of each generation are built upon those before them, and they need to be continued by future female leaders willing to put in the hard work, willing to face the difficulties that will be placed in front of them, and always pushing forward, moving that momentum. Each of the women that you will hear from tonight have faced significant challenges to their success because they were women. And I'm sad to say that each of you will also face those same challenges. What I hope you're able to take with you from these stories are how they dealt with and overcame those challenges. I want you to know that you don't have to accept the status quo. You can make a change, and you really must. I have personally faced obstacles to my success solely because I am a woman. It has happened through my career. It's happened before and after law school. It happened as an attorney, and I can tell you it's even happened as a legislator. There was one event at the Union County Freeholders building where I was running late, and so I had jeans on, just hang around clothes, and I had my suit. And I jumped out of my SUV, and it clearly had license plate that say AQ Assembly. And because I sit on Homeland Security, I need that plate to get in and out if there's an emergency. People know I'm coming, and I don't have to start pulling out IDs. A gentleman was there with his wife, his mother, and his daughters. I exited the car, and I said, "Excuse me, can you tell me if a certain topic was discussed yet at the Freeholder Board?" And he goes, "No, the students were just given their awards." So I thanked him. He said, "Are you here to pick up your husband?" As he points to my special plates. I'm like, "My husband?" So I'm looking at where would he get that I'm here to pick up anybody? I'm carrying a suit. I'm going to get dressed. And he said, "AQ." I said, "AQ? Let me introduce myself. I'm Assemblywoman Quijano, Annette Quijano. That's the AQ. This is my vehicle. And sir, women can be assembly members of the New Jersey legislature. And it's very nice to meet you. Hopefully your daughters will think of running one day." So as a legislator, it still happens. Just because we've had a part of this last generation breaking glass ceilings and barriers, it doesn't mean our work is done. We need to do more by leading by example. We need to mentor the next generation. We need to teach them how to handle the challenges and still be a lady. We need to make sure that they don't lose their cool, because once you lose your cool, you scream, you have lost that discussion. And when we're in positions to make policies that help women, we must do that. As someone who's able to make laws in the state of New Jersey, and I can tell you that's the best part of my job, that I can write laws, I believe it's my responsibility to level the playing field so that women get the equality that we all deserve. Equal pay for equal work is one of the most important issues of the day. And it isn't something that I support because it's popular now. I support it because it's morally just. I have challenged my past employers, so all the employers in the room, don't get nervous, but in the past, when I found out that men were making more money than I was doing the exact same job, it was wrong then, and it's wrong now. That's why I introduced legislation that would ban any employer the ability to use any of the incentive and financing programs administered by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, also known as EDA, if they pay their female employees less than they pay men for the same work. Our incentives are an extension of our values, and we cannot reward employers who don't respect that. So that's one way that I'm taking on equality for women, and I'm looking forward to hearing how our other speakers are carrying the torch. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. She has experienced what it's like to be a woman who has worked hard and to move up the corporate ladder. And she truly understands what it's like to be one of the only women in the room when decisions are being made. And now she's the one who gets to make those hard decisions. Judy Spires is the president and CEO of KBUS Holdings, Inc. And I know a lot of you looked at the invitation and said, what is that? What it is King's Foods Markets, Baltucci's Food Lovers Market, and Baltucci's Gourmet on-the-Go Cafe brands, a range of gourmet and contemporary markets operating in the New York and Washington, D.C. metropolitan areas. Judy began her career with Acme. Who remembers Acme? Supermarkets. Me too. As a cashier and earned positions of increasing importance through her over 30 years tenure. Though the majority of her time had been spent at Acme, she also served as president of the Rocky Mountain Division and the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Division of Albertsons. Well, I'm glad you're back, Judy. Her dedication to customers and associates in the community has earned her both industry and local recognition. She was named 2008 Person of the Year by the Mid-Atlantic Food Trades Organization and one of the top 50 women in grocery by Progressive Grocer magazine. In the community, Judy serves on the Board of Trustees at LaSalle University, the Executive Board of the New Jersey Food Council, and the Board of MetPro Corporation. It's my pleasure to welcome Judy to the podium.
Well, thank you, Annette, and thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I am so happy to be here because when I heard the topic, when women lead, I said, absolutely, I want to be there. I want to be where women are leading, and that's been my driving thing all my life. You heard my bio, you know what I am. I went around the room and talked to some of you after we ate. And there's a lot of talented women in all different parts of the business. So I'm going to tell you how I succeeded, a little bit about, how I got where I am, and hopefully it will resonate. Some of it will resonate with you. I asked you to take what you want, leave the rest behind, because there's a message in here that kind of tells you to do that. But anyway, I know I have a clicker here that works, so if we, oh geez, look at that. That's me up in the back. I was the middle of 5 kids, and here's the really cool thing. Mom worked not outside the house, only inside the house, and Dad was a truck driver who worked at night for Acme Markets. And all 5 of us, 2 boys, 3 girls, the rules in our house were you work hard, you go to school and get grades, and you go to college and get a good education. And get a job as soon as you graduate from college. There were the rules. They weren't different for boys or girls. They were absolutely the same. So how great was that to grow up with that, right? And that's my dad. He owned a business, so I guess that's where the retail bug came from. And he actually, as a truck driver at Acme, when I was in high school, came to me and said, it's time to start working and getting money for college. And I got my job at Acme Markets, and I was hired on Thanksgiving Day, Halloween, witches. I came in with the witches. And that was quite a shock to me that people had to work on holidays that kids enjoyed. So that's how I grew up. I had to start working, in the business. And but really, what happened to me was that probably about 3 weeks after I started working there, I just absolutely fell in love with the retail business. A lot of people ask me, how did you get into that? And my answer is, I just couldn't get out. I got in, it was the Hotel California for me. At first, my father my father made me go to an all-girls high school because he said I was boy crazy. And then he got me a job working in a supermarket, and who works there? high school and college boys. I was in heaven. So that, that was the first week. Things seemed really good. But then I understood and got to know what it was really like to take care of customers, to get immediate reinforcement. And I was in a place where people really enjoyed what they were doing. And so there I was, happy, raising my hand, call me in whenever you want, I'll work all the time. Abe was first to be with the guys, but then it really was to take care of customers and live my passion. So I say to you, if you're sitting here tonight, and you are here tonight because you're an accomplished person or you're looking to further your career, if you are in a job, you're not going to get there. If you are living your passion, there is no stopping you. Absolutely no stopping you. So to me, that's the first checklist that you have to work on. And so number one rule, make sure you absolutely love what you're doing. And how do you know that? You never look at a clock. And you think about it all the time. And there's ways to always make it better. Second thing I'd like to share with you is, you have to have a plan, right? You have to have a plan and set your long-term goals and say yes to every opportunity. I knew when I graduated from college, I graduated from college with my then fiance, who has been my boyfriend and husband my entire life. We've been together all this time. But when we graduated from college, because I had been accepted as a management trainee in a company that I loved, where I had never seen a role model that looked like me at all, but I had put a personal strategic plan together to get there, because in my mind, I didn't know what a glass ceiling was. I knew that I wanted to live my passion. And so I, by hook or by crook, got accepted as a management trainee. And once I knew I had that college degree and I had been accepted in that program, that very night, at 22 years old, I told my husband that I was going to be president of Acme Markets someday. So I knew my long-term goal. And I had, of course, the biggest supporter, my best friend, and he doesn't have a chauvinistic bone in his body. But, it's not something we talked about all the time because you have to get to work to do that. There's lots of things you have to do between that and getting there. And, I really thought that, to get there, it was operations. And then a new president came to the company from Chicago, and he said, no, you have to really broaden your horizons, and you have to do different things. And I really had my heart on becoming district manager. And he said, no, we want you to come in and be a merchant, a floral merchant, and start a floral program in the company, because then they just sold poinsettias at Christmas. And I said, well, I really appreciate the opportunity, but I hate to tell you, I don't know the difference between a petunia and a rose. And he said, it doesn't matter. You know how to think, you know how to lead people, you know how to make money, you'll figure it out. And really, ladies and gentlemen, you figure it out. Don't ever say no to a job because you don't think you have 100% of the skills. There's a steep learning curve for subject matter. But you take the skills that make you successful in everything else. So don't worry. There's studies that say, women are so hesitant to go for a job or apply for a job or ask for a job if they don't think they can click off every single thing in the box. And here was this great mentor to me saying, you'll learn that stuff. You got these other skills. And that's how you have to think of your life. So say yes to every opportunity, and you'll never know where you end up. I ended up working in every single department in our business. I ran operations, I ran distribution centers, I was the spokesperson for the company. I was, marketing and advertising and merchandising and operations and all the risk lines and the profit and loss centers. And you know what? It made me able to put myself in any position and say, yes, I can do that. So open those doors for yourselves and don't be afraid to say yes. And this one I call, it really is, right? Be yourself, but I call it be the girl on the right. Okay? And if you take anything, take this picture home with you. When our company, early on when I was in management and I was a successful store manager, there was a lot of pressure on the company to get more diverse. And so the only thing that they could figure out was to put people that looked like me in the same position I had. So they were looking for blue-eyed people with, blonde curly hair. It's really curly, I blew it out. What a mistake. What a mistake. I love my job because there is so much diversity of thought, so much diversity of people, so much diversity of customers. And if you think that you have to act a certain way, or dress a certain way, or speak a certain way, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You have to know the lingo of your job. You have to dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have, whatever that is. And it's getting very weird now. My son is taking a job with Nike after he gets out of graduate school, and he will never need dress clothing again in his life. So, as long as it's Nike, that really changes. But don't think you have to be like somebody before you that had that job. Do the job the way you know it should be done. And always remember, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And you'll accomplish a lot that way. And then finally, who's your competition, right? Deliver results. You're never going to get anywhere unless you're the one that's coming to the table delivering results. Whatever that is, know what it is and do it. And you don't have to brag about it. And if you have a kind of boss that takes credit for what you do, anybody have that in this room when you're coming up the ladder, right? The boss that wants to take credit, that's okay, because you were hired to make that person successful. And sooner or later, karma's going to come around, or that person's going to get promoted and drag you along the way. Remember what your job is. Deliver results, whatever they are, and don't compare yourself to other people and how they're delivering. Make yourself your benchmark. And always strive for your personal best. And that's what will propel you along the road to success in whatever your chosen field is. I'm talking fast because they only gave me 10 minutes to tell my whole life story. Number 5, if you can take this one thing in anything you do, never, ever, ever be afraid to ask for what you want. What's the worst they can say? No, right? Boy, I did not know that in my early career. And I'll tell you, I learned it really loud and clear. When I would get promoted to a job, they would tell me what my salary was. And I'd be like, thank you for the promotion, thank you for the pay. And then I got in the position where I was promoting people and giving them. And I had this gentleman that worked for me, and he was never satisfied. He always wanted more. I'm like, geez, and I'm not going to take the job unless I get this, I'm worth this, and he'd always have a reason why he was. So the first time he got me, I gave it to them. I promoted him 2 more times, and the next 2 times I just offered him less than I was willing to give, so I got him. But anyway, but I learned a lot from that, right? When I took this job, they offered me a salary, and after what I had learned and what I had read and what I had said, I believed, with my knowledge and expertise, what I was worth, and I asked for it, and they immediately said yes. I'm like, geez, I should have asked for more. But don't be afraid. And then, I remember, and don't let people make assumptions for you. And this doesn't have to do with your pay, but your career. Two examples of this are, one time I was working in the office, and I was vice president of operations, and everybody was out of the office. And I found out later it was a golf event. And I wasn't invited. I was back at the office working. And so I went to the person that was my superior, the senior vice president, and I said, hey, Carl, why wasn't I invited to the golf tournament? He said, I didn't know you played golf. And I said, of course I play golf. Of course, I went out and got lessons after that so I could be available for the next one. But, you don't let people assume. And right, if all these people were out on the golf course and I'm the only one working at the office, I needed to figure out a way to get there. So you ask the question. Another time, we have these yearly evaluations, and some are pleasant and some aren't. I've been on a rampage all my life to make them a pleasant experience and not a defensive and nervous experience. And I think we're getting there in my company. But I had a president when I was a senior vice president, and he walked down and he had to do evaluations. That was the HR rule. So he put the evaluation on my desk. He goes, here it is. Everybody's that meets expectations. If you're in exceeds, you'd be God. So no, that's what it is. I go, well, this is a great evaluation. So I looked over it, and there was a place on it that said, what are your career aspirations and goals? And I simply wrote on there that, again, I didn't want anybody to make any assumptions for me. I said, I am willing to go anywhere and do anything to further my career in this organization, and it was a national organization, to attain the highest possible levels that I am capable of achieving. And so I took it back and put it on his desk. 2 minutes later, he comes running down to my office. He goes, what does this mean? Because he thought I was going to leave the company. That's how he read it. And I go, no, I don't want anybody making assumptions for you, but I want you to know that I will move, I will go anywhere, and I will take any job to move ahead. And that was really good because 3 weeks later, I was promoted to president of a company. And, probably people were out there, well, no, she's got a kid that's still in school, and she wouldn't want to disrupt the kid, and her husband has a job here. Don't let people make those assumptions for you, right? And you're going to get, I put this door up here in this saying, I just love this, right? You're going to become, not everything's great. I had negative things happen in my life. I had my heart broken when I didn't get a job, or a new boss came in and took me out of a position and put their buddy in the position. And I just, it's resiliency, right? I have this saying that is, when you get mad, don't get even, get better, right? Don't waste any time. Don't waste any time with anger. Don't waste any time worrying about what people are saying about you or thinking about you. That's precious time you can be dedicating to your job and the people you love and doing the things you want to do without that stuff. It doesn't matter. As long as you are being the best at the job you do and using yourself as the measure and delivering results. And, one more thing with that. Adversity, a corollary to that is there's a point where I almost totally derailed my career, because when I first became the president of a company, I thought I needed to know everything. So I got a job, and it was the pinnacle of the job I wanted in my life, and I thought, well, they gave me this job because I know everything. And I absolutely almost derailed my career, but it was a hard way to learn, and I know it now. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And people want to help you. People will always help you. So you have to learn how to not only manage down, you have to learn how to manage across, and you definitely have to learn how to manage up. And I'll tell you, it's pretty lonely up there. When I sit at a table, nobody wants to sit next to me. They all go back there and sit. Take the opportunity when somebody there, sit next to them. Talk to them. I've met so many great people that way and learn about their capabilities. So have your elevator speech ready. And when you're managing up and down and sideways, it's always, always better to ask for help, because there's people that are always there willing to help you. So just a quick recap. If I can make this work again, right? These are the things we talked about tonight, right? Always do what you love. That's the passion, right? Set your long-term goals and say yes to every single opportunity. Never, ever, ever hesitate to be who you are. Remember, we call that be the girl on the right. And guys, you could be the guy on the right, okay? So there's be the girl if you want. And deliver results. Deliver results. Nobody's going to go anywhere unless you're delivering results. Absolutely, right? And never, ever, ever, ever be afraid to ask for your ask for what you want. I said in the beginning that I was really excited to be here wherever women lead, right? When women lead, I want to be there, because one of the passions I fight in my life, and I've been doing this all my life, and I will never stop doing it, And geez, it made me so mad last year when I read an article in the New York Times that released some facts and figures that said women prefer not to work for women. And you know what? That's baloney. It's somebody taking a statistic and blowing it out of proportion, and then you let people talk about it. You are in this room tonight. Support each other. Speak highly of each other whenever you can. Be glad for people in their successes, right? You know, what do we all want? We want to work for a good boss. We want to be a good boss. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, how can I be as mean to as many people today as I can? Right? I mean, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm hoping not that many people, but you know, with that in mind, right? With that absolutely in mind, I'm just going to leave this last little slide in your memory. And that is when somebody says something to you, right? I'm not bossy, I've got skills, and they're leadership skills. Understand? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Quijano and Mrs. Spires. What amazing and empowered women you both are. Thank you. At this point, I'm going to turn the evening over to a fellow alum and our moderator for tonight's panel discussion, Ms. Laura Condon. Laura is a national award-winning esthetician, guest on Dr. Oz, and a beauty consumer advocate known as the Beauty Buster. Laura, the founder of New Jersey Beauty and Wellness Professionals and owner of Jersey Boutique Spa, is also a spa consultant and trainer for spas, salons, and national beauty chain stores. Laura's work has appeared in Ladies' Home Journal, the New York Times, Time Out New York, and in spots for Good Morning America, The View, CNN, and Fox News. The author of 2 successful books, Laura earned her degree from Kean University in 1994. So please welcome Ms. Laura Condon.
Thank you so much. It is narrow back here. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall off the side. But it'll be definitely a YouTube moment. So thank you everybody so much for coming out in the rain. I'm so happy to be here and very, very honored. When I read the list of women, I was like, I don't know if I belong here, if I have the right person. But I just want to get this started with our first panelist, Abina Antwi. I'd like to introduce the ladies who flew up here from North Carolina just for this. Yes. And I'm like, who is so excited to fly to New Jersey in March? Really. But here she is. And she is the class of 2001. She's a lead innovation scientist and associate research fellow at Burt's Bees, who we all love, where she uses her knowledge of emerging technologies, trends, new products, raw materials to drive product innovation. So we're all going to want to talk to her later about the new trends coming out. Our next panelist is Sheridan Balmeo. And she is the Regional Public Affairs Manager for PSE&G, where she's responsible for strategic outreach and communication plans to promote critical PSE&G infrastructure projects, and also serves as a liaison to elected officials in counties of Union, Somerset, and Hunterdon. And I need some snaps. That's like a mouthful to get out. Next, we have the one and only Maria Bordas from 74 and 70 and 80. Woohoo! Our third panelist here, and a double alumna of Kean, which was 74 and 80. She's a general manager, business analyst, and departmental performance at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and she's the current vice chair for the Kean University Foundation Board of Directors, and a 2015 recipient of this Distinguished Alumni Award. She was telling me everything she was doing. I was just exhausted listening to her. Still schlepping into the city every day. Our next panelist is Sonia Gardez, a 97 graduate, and she recently came back to Kean to teach as the professor in the School of Communication, Media, and Journalism, doing her job as we speak, right? It's with living her passion, right? She has a strong background in media and currently hosts the show Broken Silence on Brit Asia TV, which addresses a wide range of controversial and timeless issues, and was nominated for the Best TV Show at the Asia Media Awards. Woo-woo. And, of course, at the end here, we have the very youthful-looking Anna Montero. That's an inside joke, sorry. And yeah, she's the regional CEO for the American Red Cross in the New Jersey region. And in this role, she oversees all the Red Cross disaster services, volunteer management, and service to the armed forces, fundraising, and external relations within the state. Whew, all in a day's work. But before we begin to get really into the panels and the questions, we do have a video that we are going to play. It's about a 3-minute video.
I'm feeling honored that I'm being chosen as a Nobel laureate.
Growing up in Mississippi, my prayer was, for as long as I can remember, God, use me. Use this life. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know that there is a vision for my life that is greater than my imagination can hold.
Well, I want you to be that hungry to get your education because it is going to be the key to your future.
We have been told to live by a certain mold, women, especially women, and it's time to break it. And it is up to us to do that. Stop waiting for men to do that. Look in the mirror and see yourself and say, I am sexy, I am attractive, I am smart, I am intelligent, I am powerful.
You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
To those waiting with bated breath for that favorite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to. The ladies, not for turning.
It's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenally.
And she's gonna learn that this life will hit you hard in the face. Wait for you to get back up just so it can kick you in the stomach. But getting the wind knocked out of you is the only way to remind your lungs how much they like the taste of air.
Each of us must truly be a woman in the world. We need to be as fearless as the women whose stories you have applauded, as committed as the dissidents and activists you have heard from, as audacious as those who start movements for peace when all seems lost. Together, I do believe it is part of the American mission to ensure that people everywhere, women and men alike, finally have the opportunity to live up to their own God-given potential.
What do I think make a good leader? I think it. I do, don't I? A leader is somebody that cares for others. You can be a leader if you just care for yourself. A leader is somebody that looks around and see the people that they either work for or work with and make sure that those people are succeeding with them. So a leader always holds somebody's hand with them. They just don't leave them behind.
All right, thank you. So for me, in my opinion, I think a leader, an effective leader, really is someone who can listen, right? And not only listen, but to retain that information, so that when it comes down the line, whether you're asking somebody how their family's doing or where they're from, and et cetera, it's being able to connect with that person. Because once you have that connection, then you pretty much know that that person will be on your side and will be able to get down in the trenches with you and get the job done, do what it takes to get the job done. So.
And he told me to turn the mic on. I think it's on. Before we go on, what I would like to do is to thank the Alumni Association. I think that what you have put together today is extraordinary, and thank you very, very much. It is a powerful program, and for all the staff members and for all the invited guests, it's absolutely beautiful, and all of us thank you for inviting us. Leadership. For me, leadership, and I think that a lot of us here share the same idea, is that no is simply the first hurdle, because that's what we hear, no. But that is the first hurdle. And what you have to do is be powerful enough and be confident enough in your ability to know that you can succeed. And later on, I will share with you the career that I have chosen. And yes, it has been in a man's world. And I will share with you some of the things that I have done so that I have been able to advance, and that why I am sitting here today. So thank you.
Well, let's see. I grew up in a very conservative Muslim family, and the deal I made with my parents was that if I did well at Kane, they would let me go anywhere I wanted to in the world to do my master's. So I lied. I told them I had a job at the BBC. I didn't. I got to England and I knocked at their door, and I talked myself into a job at the BBC as making tea for free, and then told anybody that would listen to me that I wanted to be on air. And I made them believe that I could do it. So since I was believing in myself, I kind of faked it until I made it. And that's just the way it works. Sometimes if you believe it enough, others will believe it as well. So I think that's what leadership means to me.
I guess my perspective on leadership is that oftentimes we make assumptions and think that folks who are leaders are people like the women up here on the dais who have accomplished careers. I believe very strongly in the power of leadership from the middle. I believe that we are always giving opportunities to lead, and we are seen as leaders even when we do not see ourselves as such. And so when I think about leadership, I think about everyone's potential to lead, and how we can recognize, and should harness that. And always know wherever you are in an organization, in your personal life, in a club or a group, you don't have to be the secretary or the president. You're still a leader, and you can influence. And so for me, when I think of leadership, I think about in whatever position I'm in or whatever opportunity I have, how can I lead from here? How can I influence from here?
I have some kind of, ooh, there we go. Too much energy. All right. So for Abina, how do you define success, and how do you balance your professional success with other facets of your life?
How do I define success? You guys see me? Yeah. So how do I define success? I grew up in Ghana, a little town, or a little village, I should say, in Ghana, West Africa. I came to the U.S. when I was 15 years old. Before I came here, I never saw a woman drive a car because it wasn't common in Ghana for a woman to drive a car that they have a lot of money, or I guess they feel strong. I never saw a woman drive a car. Grew up very poor. I shared a bedroom, or we rented a room with my mom and 3 sisters. So being successful to me was something of the past. I was the kid that you saw or you see from Feed the Children in line looking for rice to eat. I have to walk 5 miles just to fetch water to drink and take a shower. So success to me was not anything that I was ever thought it would come to me. When I came to this country, I decided, and my parents made me, you are going to make something out of yourself. You are not going to be like you were when you were in Africa. So I work hard. I had 3 jobs when I was in King University. I worked at Dunkin' Donut. I was a pharmacy tech, and I worked at the chemistry department here. For me, success is my accomplishment, what I have been able to put myself into in terms of studying and getting a job. I got an internship while I was in, actually my 3rd year here with L'Oreal, and I fought for that because L'Oreal was hiring all these Ivy League students for their internship program, and I called them 24/7, like I want this job. So I did chemistry. They gave me the job, the internship. They hired me before I even graduated and worked there for like 8 years. Then I got a job at Burt's Bees. And within Burt's Bees, I was just a lab chemist. Like you just become a chemist in a lab making products. But I pushed it to the next level. I wanted to be part of the PR event. So I become like more of a, like the face for Burt's Bees now. So I get to travel around the world speaking about the products that I made. I just came back from Italy. I'm on my way to London on Friday. And this is all because of what I wanted to do and because I lived the poor life before and I never wanted to live that anymore. So to me, success is what you make, your accomplishment and what you make yourself do. Like you believe in yourself that you can do it. And when you achieve it, then I think you define success. How I balance that as a mother, I'm a mother of 2 energetic boys, 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I got promoted within Birds, and the expectation is very high. Like I have to be able to travel like anytime they want me. So how do I balance that? It's building a network. My mom always tells me it takes a village to raise a child. So it's not just me and my partner, because he travels a lot too. So both of us, we have to have a network of people within our village that can help. And I can't tell my company I can't do it because my children, I have kids. So I put everything aside. So whoever is, I hear the term balancing, right? Having a balance. It's not a balance. It's wherever you are. When I'm at work, I'm there 100%. When I'm with my children, the phone is down and I'm with them 100%. So having that balance, to me, is the best way to kind of be successful in the workplace and also in the personal life.
She also won't tell you that she is on the buses, her face, if you ever see her, for a cane. And if you're driving down the turnpike 100 miles an hour and look up for your phone, you might happen to see her face on one of the ads there as well. So it's like success when you're not even expecting it. It's pretty amazing. When you put in the work, you never know who's watching. That brings us to our next question to Sheridan. What skills do you find most often in your leadership roles? Are some of them traits that would be seen more inherently as male or female, or are you just all that in a bag of chips?
Can you hear me? Yeah. So, the skills as a leader. I think I have to go back to really staying true to yourself and staying true to your character. So as a regional public affairs manager in PSC&G, one of my roles is to advance multi-million-dollar projects, infrastructure projects for the company. And, you know, this requires working with project managers, and really, you know, it's a man's world, right? And sorry, guys. And in the utility industry, it's a matter of working with engineers. And, you know, I have a political science background. And, you know, while others might say, well, what is she doing in this room? She doesn't know what a substation is or how power is stepped down from 1 kilovolt to another. But I know that I have a purpose, right? I'm there for a reason. And I guess I'll share one recent project, and it was one of those controversial projects. In order for us to push a project down the line, we have deadlines. It's also a matter of getting cooperation from a town. And during negotiation phases, a town pushed back on us. And one of the feedbacks from the project manager was, well, Sheridan is not aggressive enough. And my response was, I like to make friends instead of enemies, because it's easier to get your friends to do what you need them to do rather than your enemies. And I attribute that to really staying true to myself. So whether or not, is it because I'm not aggressive enough? Maybe. But I like to think that I'm strategic, and it goes back to listening to people and being able to connect with them and eventually getting them to do what you want. Oh, and we were able to push that multi-million-dollar project down the pipe.
All right, this brings us to the other side with Miss Maria here. So tell me a little bit about being and having a mentor and your own experience with each, and how do you think women can best mentor and foster growth in each other? That's a loaded.
Notice that I'm the only one up here wearing glasses. Can you hear me? You can, okay. Before I answer the question, Judy, I so agree with you. I still go to meetings, and this is March, right? March of 2017, and I'm the only woman in the conference room. I hope they don't expect me to go get the coffee, because I don't. So, I'm also very happy being in a room surrounded by so many women, and number two, not being the only immigrant in the room, because that's the other thing that always happens to me. I'm the only woman, and I'm the only one that was not born in this country. There was a time that I did not speak English. And was I bullied? Yes. Was I treated unfairly? Yes. But there have been 2 mentors in my life. Unfortunately, they are no longer with me. They are my parents. My parents were born in Spain. My father was born in Barcelona. And my mother was from the Canary Islands, from Tenerife. And in the 30s, their families, when they were young, they moved to Cuba, because Cuba was up and coming, like Hoboken or Park Slope or Williamsburg in Brooklyn. So everyone was leaving Spain and going to Cuba, and I was born in Cuba. And obviously, we all know what happened January 1st, 1959. My father and my mother were better educated than I will ever be. By the time we left Cuba on December 26, 1961, my father was the youngest superintendent of schools, and my mother was a reading specialist, and they were both educators. So in my family, education was number one. Failure is not an option. Yes, we came to this country and we went from sheer opulence to poverty, but failure is not an option. I am an only child, and my parents never distinguished the fact that, oh my God, I didn't have a boy, I had a girl. You will go to college, you will succeed, and you will be happy, whether you like it or not. So, those were the marching orders. And those were the most significant mentors that I will ever have. My parents made sure that I succeeded because, again, failure was never an option. Where they got the money to send me to a private high school I will never, ever know. Coming to Kane, freshman year, I went home and I said, my books are going to be $65. Where are we going to get $65? We were living in an apartment that had no heat. The next day, my father handed me $65 in cash. Where did you get this money? Well, we knew that you were going to go to college and we've been saving. So go and get your books. And I don't know why they're always talking about the parking problem here at Kane, because the bus left me like right on Morris Avenue, and I really never had a parking problem at Kane. So having mentors and having people that expect a lot from you is really, really important. As far as my career, I worked when I was getting my master's here at Kane. I worked for Union County Vocational Schools, and some folks from the Port Authority came over, and I was making a presentation, and at the end, they gave me a card and said, how would you like to work for the Port Authority? And I said, I don't want to work at the bus terminal. And they said, no, there's a lot more to the Port Authority than the bus terminal. I go, oh, okay. So I took the schlep into the World Trade Center, and after 6 interviews, I made a decision. I made a decision not to go into the World Trade Center, but to go into PATH. PATH is the Port Authority Trans-Hudson Corporation, the rapid train system. It's a corporation of the Port Authority. And the reason I did that is because the headquarters for PATH is in Jersey City. And my husband and I were married for 6 years. We had already finished graduate school. We had already purchased a house. We had already been all over Europe. And we knew that we were going to have children. So as women, back then, I made the choice that I was going to go work in Jersey City because I was going to have children. And I wanted to be in New Jersey. And in case they were girls, I wanted to go to the ballet classes and piano classes, and I did not want to be an hour and a half away. So as a woman, you do make choices. But I have a wonderful partner of 40 years who gave up promotions and was home at 5 o'clock and took the girls to the park. And that is called partnership. So when you're married to someone who also understands that you have a career, and he has also been a very, very good mentor. So I took a job at PATH. It was the secretaries and I. And like Judy, I was a management intern. I was nobody. So we start working, and they didn't think I knew anything. And things began to evolve. PATH really began to get on the map. It was the 1980s. It was the rehabilitation of the cars, new cars. PATH was really a 1907 railroad, but the Port Authority purchased PATH because they wanted to build the World Trade Center. And they began to modernize it. And they began to ask for people who actually had experience in testing, which is what I got here at Kane, thank God, in my graduate studies. And one of the things, the first mentor that I had was not from PATH, but he was from the Department of Transportation, the Federal Railroad Administration, who once said to me, I want to sit next to her because she smells good. I said, okay, it's fine. And you smile. You smile and you said, fine. But he taught me, if you're going to open your mouth, you better know what you're talking about. And he taught me a great deal. There was no Google back then because it was the 80s. Go to the library, do some research, and when you open your mouth, know what it is that you're talking about. Don't be afraid to open your mouth. And around all these guys, don't think that they're all fabulous, because they're not. and they all make mistakes, and they do. So, that was my experience having mentors, which today I am very, very happy that not only at Path, but my second career in aviation, which is, by the way, still heavily male-dominated, because they all look alike. They're all in their 60s, they all have white hair, and sometimes a little bit of dandruff, regardless of what CEO you are. Again, huh?
On the dandruff note, I think we'll go to our next question on the dandruff note. We'll leave it there.
But mentors are very important, and thank you.
Well, very lucky to have parents, as you are an original mentor as a parent. So which brings us to our media question and our media's expert here. How do you think the media's portrayal of women and their place in history and society has changed? And how would you like to see women portrayed in the future that we might not have seen yet?
That's a loaded question, too. Well, I can speak from experience that I think that, like I mentioned, I was born in Pakistan. I'm a Muslim woman, so the portrayal of Muslim women in particular is very stereotypical. You know, we have this idea that Muslim women are oppressed because a lot of women wear hijabs, and it's a choice. Like, it is a choice for a woman to wear a bikini when she's at the beach. So telling a woman what to wear, what not to wear, is taking away her freedom. So as a Muslim woman, I think it's a misconception that we're oppressed. Women in general, however, I think being a woman in media, I realize that we are objectified, and I think we can beat the men at their own game. And it's opened doors for me. It has helped me get interviews. It's helped me set up meetings. It's made me, and I know the younger people that are listening to me, when I auditioned for this talk show, it was a pilot. When they asked me, had I done TV before, I had not. But I said I did. So they let me do it. And because I believed I could do it, as soon as that camera went on and it went live, I pretended to be my role model, who was Oprah Winfrey. And I thought to myself, how would she be in this situation? She would be calm. She'd be relaxed. She'd be composed. And that's who I became. I personified that. And on a negative, I know that we're running out of time. I did a very important show on Islamophobia, and we had one of our highest rated shows. We had a named terrorist who we ended up getting on the program secretly through a back door to talk about Sharia law. It was trending all over social media. And although a lot of the comments were about how amazing this program was, it's unscripted. I executive produce it, I host it, so I don't go in with any questions and just go ahead and ask what I think our audience wants to know. Half of the remarks on Twitter were how great the show were. The other half were about my boobs. So yes, are we objectified? Yeah. Is it always a negative thing? Politically correct answer is probably yes, but the truth is no. We should be able to use whatever qualities we have. Now, not saying it literally, I'm saying, you know, if being a woman gets you through the door, gets you the interview, you can't just come in there with a pretty face and a nice smile. You have to come there with ideas and insights, knowledge, and bring something to the table. So I think it's changing, and I think as women, and like Judy said, you don't take no for an answer. If an opportunity comes, they ask you to do something, you say yes, even if you don't think you can. If you believe you can, when you get there, you absolutely will. Thank you.
Okay, and our final question. Can you provide us with an example of how your foundation shaped you into the business leader you are today? And can you give us an example of how a particular experience has impacted you?
All right. So in order to answer that question, I guess I have to think about my foundation, right? And for me, I'll focus tonight on my personal upbringing. So I was born in Puerto Rico and raised here in New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey. Trenton. Did I get that right? I graduated from high school down in South Jersey, graduated from Rutgers Law in Newark, and lived in Montclair for a little while. So I've lived in different parts of the state. I was one of 5 children. My parents, neither one of them graduated from high school. I believe my mother obtained maybe 10th grade education and my father 4th grade. He was one of about 13 kids working on a farm in Puerto Rico, and came here around the 50s to work on the farms down in southern New Jersey. When my parents divorced, we pretty much survived intermittently on government assistance. And for me, that really created an experience that when I look back on my upbringing, realize that it really led me along a path I didn't even realize. And frankly, it wasn't until I was on this panel and assigned this specific question that I started to unpack that a little bit more than what I ever had in the past. For my parents, success was simply raising 5 healthy children who could graduate from high school and never rely on government assistance. That was success for them. And they were able to achieve that. Growing up and being poor, and I say that term relatively poor, right? We heard about some of the experiences of the panelists, and being poor in the United States is nothing like being poor in other parts of this world, as I know you all know. But for me, that was my experience. And knowing that I wanted to improve my circumstances, I knew that I had to study hard and I had to go to college. That I knew. Frankly, like I said, my parents would have considered it a success if I would have just graduated from high school, and I wanted more. That transformed and informed my leadership growth, primarily in the area of always thirsting for knowledge, and investing in my own professional growth, as well as the professional growth of the teams that I lead and the people that I work with. Doing well in school was always important, and earning the respect and the praise of my teachers was something that I so wanted. I wanted them to like me, and they would like me because I was really smart and studied really hard. And I realized that that informed me as a professional as well, in that I always wanted people to like me in my work. And I soon realized that if I was going to advance in my career and lead teams, that I couldn't do that by simply wanting to be liked by everyone. I know a lot of women in positions of power who have learned this lesson as well, and they may not necessarily be likable to all, but very successful. Another thing regarding my upbringing that has informed me in my leadership and my career was that oftentimes I had to help my family and neighbors to sort of navigate through systems, and I learned at a young age that I learned about bureaucracies, and I learned about broken systems. And I think that informed and influenced me in terms of my leadership vision of always trying to look to make things better. How can I make things better? How can I make this organization better internally? How can I make the experience for the customer and the people that we're serving better? Always looking to try to make things better. And then finally, one of the other things that I found myself doing at an early age was advocating on behalf of my siblings, my parents, and neighbors at times when I thought they weren't being treated fairly or justly. And I realized through that experience that it sort of planted this desire in me to be an advocate for people. And from 3rd grade, I knew I was going to go to law school and I was going to be an attorney. And that seed of justice and sort of servanthood was planted in me. And I think it's informed, again, me in terms of my leadership. I try to be a servant leader. I always think about the people that I am working with and how I can help them, how I can help them become in a way that they don't even realize it. I know that I've heard a quote, it says something like, you will know that you have been a successful leader when they have succeeded and did not even realize that you were the person there that helped them to do that. And so that's what I live for, and that's how I think my upbringing has formed the foundation of who I am as a leader.
All right, that was awesome. I'm trying to digest all of this. My head's spinning a little bit. And I feel like my life has been so boring compared to everybody else. Like, I'm just a Jersey girl, like, really, hitting the beach on the weekends. Do we have time for one more question? We do? Okay, great. Would you like me to do 6 or 7? 7? Okay, good, because I like 7 too. So this is open for everybody, and we basically want to know, what do you see as the biggest challenge to future generations of women, and what advice do you have for the next generation? Pink or purple nail polish?
Well, I think that it speaks volumes, without getting too political, that one of the most qualified candidates, politicians that we've ever seen, has lost out to one of the least qualified person to do a job. And you can have your opinions on why it went which way it went, but I think it had nothing to do with her emails. It had everything to do with because she's a woman. Living on the East Coast and living on the West Coast and living in London or living in a big city, we're unaware of the biases that exist throughout the United States. And for future generations of women who think we are so evolved and we have broken glass ceilings, no, we have not. We're just getting started. We're lucky we live close to Manhattan, and we couldn't go to LA, and I lived in London, and we go to Paris, and yes, those cities might be evolved, but the rest of the country is not. And our current political climate will tell you just how unevolved, is that even a word, we are. So what we really need to do, my advice to the younger women and to all women, is we have to help each other. We have to help each other and bring each other up. I mean, a man can brag about molesting women and still lead the country. What does that say about us? And he had the majority of women voters voted for him. So we need to stick together. We need to figure out, where is our moral compass? What are we supporting? Are we just going with the status quo, or are we really going to go ahead and break that glass ceiling, or just continue having discussions about it?
Okay. I promise that I'll be brief. I'm Cuban. I talk a lot. The biggest advice that I have for women is educate yourself. That is the #1 ticket everywhere. The other thing that I have learned, and I am the oldest one here on the panel, listen and ask questions. Because when you're doing that, you're actually engaging the other person, and you'll be surprised of the amount of information that you get back. The other thing is that there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. So it's our responsibility to do that, to make sure that when there's someone new that joins you, you extend a hand. One of the things that my husband and I have said to our daughters, who are 31 and 32, a whole bunch of doors have opened up for you. Leave that door open, turn around, and extend a hand to the person behind you and help someone else, because you are very, very lucky. So help other people, because one of my favorite authors, Maya Angelou, said, people are always going to forget what you did. They're going to forget what you said, but they're never, ever going to forget how you made them feel. So be good to one another.
So I'll add on to what Sonia just said, and this is going back really to my political days, I guess. And a lot of us, or most of us, we're not happy with the results that came out last November. And as far as, I guess, hurdles or obstacles that we have to face, and the new generation as well, I think it's more of a plug, really, is to get involved, right? And whether it is locally, which is so important, because that is what affects you directly. So, or volunteering for whether it be a political campaign or it's for a nonprofit organization pushing a certain issue. You just have to get involved. It's not enough for you to read articles on Facebook or read those, what do you call them, memes, I think? Yeah, I just look young. On Instagram. You have to educate yourself, know the issues, and know how you can make a difference. And you know, in order to do that, you know, run for office. Why not? We have Assemblywoman Keano here, and we need more women to represent us in government and get the job done.
Thank you, ladies. Do we have anybody else who wants to chime in?
I don't know that I'm an expert on this, but I would definitely say, I guess just from my lens, right? We all look through life and things differently. For me, the biggest challenge, or I guess the biggest fear for me, is that future generations of women do not become complacent and take things for granted and do not take the time to learn their history, not only in this country, but just globally. So that's what I would say in terms of the challenge, I guess, or concern. I loved to hear Judy talk about, because this is my story too, and that is accept every opportunity. So I would say, in terms of advice, you know, be more confident in yourself and your skills, and know that, yeah, you might not be able to check all those boxes off, but go for it. Be fearless. Don't be afraid to fail, and you will. Just fail fast and keep going and keep moving forward would be, you know, my advice. Don't lose sight of who you are, what's important to you as an individual. For me, my strength has been my faith in God, and never, ever losing sight of that. And for you, it might be something different, but always hold on to that and keep it real.
All right, that was really amazing, and I'm glad we stopped where we did, because now it is time to get really excited, because we have a Q&A. Woo! So, yes, it's time to get up, get some energy, think about some questions you want to ask the panelists, and we're going to do that for about 10, 15 minutes or so. So think of all their stories, maybe any burning questions you have, what your next move in life should be, and we will get started with our first question.
On. Yeah. So I'd like to ask your opinion on taking risks. You talked about running for office, and I did run for office, and I didn't get elected, but and that's fine, because it opened doors to some television opportunities and went on to things where I eventually was appointed as the public defender for the state of New Jersey. So I'd just like you to just kind of expound on, one, risk-taking, and number two, if you can give some views on sometimes as women, we take on the roles and we volunteer to do the coffee cleanup, this is what happens in place. I don't recommend it, but I would like to see that women don't do that. Or if you do, we can volunteer for a lot of things and all opportunities, but sometimes we get pigeonholed into those things, and we should really find a way to put ourselves in positions to be in the room where things are happening and not outside the room tending to things, and we're sometimes relegated to that role. And is there any advice you want to give to women how they avoid being relegated into roles of less importance?
Well, I think that in terms of being, first of all, not taking no for an answer, and if somebody, I started off making tea for the BBC, and it was an opportunity that was going to help me grow. So I took that opportunity. And I don't know if it's necessarily demeaning for you to start someplace, whether it's making tea or coffee or doing something like that, if you have your higher goal in mind. So you take that risk, you get in there, you do whatever you need to do to get you from point A to point B. So for me, it was making tea for somebody who was doing a job that I knew that I could do better. And all I had to do was prove it. It's going to take a while. I don't think it's my generation. I don't even think it's the next generation. I think it's going to take a while before, when we talk about equality, I don't even think that's the right word. I don't even know what the word is, because women and men are so different. Our qualities and our characteristics are so different. Women are more perceptive. We can gauge situations better. So I think that maybe being able to, when you're going into an interview, we're better at feeling out what the other person wants and being able to answer those questions more effectively. So in terms of taking risks, I think we're more successful at it. I think that was your question about risk taking, if I'm not mistaken. It did, right? Absolutely. Look, people are always going to say no, but it's your job to tell them, well, yeah, I'm sorry, that's not good enough.
I'm also Cuban and loud, so I think I'm good without the mic. Can you guys all hear me? Okay. My name is Carmen, and like Sonia, I actually taught here for 1 semester in the communications department. So just a quick comment before I get to the question. Maria, thank you so much. I see a lot of my own life story in what you just shared, and you moved me to tears. So Maria Elena, thank you. But my question really is more for Anna, because you said something that stood out for me. Fail fast. Sometimes I get stuck in my failures, especially when I've taken a job that hasn't been a good fit. And then I end up not being in that job because either I leave or, things happen. How do you get to the point where you can say to yourself, that wasn't a good fit for me, it's okay, it's time to move on, without kind of staying stuck in that?
Is it working? Yeah. I guess if I had to think through that for me, it would be, so it's not like I can speak from an experience where I maybe felt, well, actually I can. I mentioned that I wanted to be an attorney from when I was in 3rd grade. Like, I knew that was what I was going to do. That's what I was going to be. I may not have been, the one with the money. I may not have been the prettiest, but I was going to be the smartest and most successful. After my first year of law school, I said, what the heck was I thinking? I started looking for internships and meeting more and more attorneys. I didn't have any role models that I knew of that were attorneys, no relatives, even folks in the community that I knew. And so I thought my entire educational career, like, I knew this is what I was going to do. What am I going to do now? But I made the choice that I wasn't going to go that far and not finish what I started. But while there, figuring out and beginning to do research in terms of what can I do with my law degree. So I guess I say that to say, and I have been in positions where I didn't necessarily feel like, or when I felt I was ready to move on, creating that exit strategy in advance, which should be at least a year, figuring out who you need to talk to figure out what opportunities are there for you in advance, seeking out the mentors and the coaches and not being afraid to do it. For a long time, I was afraid to do that. It's only later in my career that I've actually done that more intentionally. And then just leaning in and saying, okay, while I'm here for this period of time, and pick it, make sure you pick that time, what am I going to get from this experience? And that's where you, if you're not offered the project, but you know something interesting is happening that you think might open a door for you or gain you a skill that's going to take you to that next step, that you go for it and you volunteer or create one.
If I could just follow up on that, when I was at PATH, it is a railroad, and at some point, all of the higher level jobs are held by people that are engineers. I am not an engineer. I came to Kane. I am a teacher. I have my master's degree, I have my MBA, but the decision came that I had to move because I had to make a decision. And the decision that I made is that, okay, now it's the time to go into the World Trade Center. And it was 2 weeks before September 11th. And what I did was that I chose to take a demotion because I knew that taking that demotion was going to put me into a different track that was going to allow me to get boatloads of other promotions. And that is what has happened. And having a mentor who can actually guide you through that, that's a strategy that now I'm the third ranking women in a $4.6 billion business. And I took a demotion to get onto that track. So what she just said is absolutely on point.
I think that brings us to our first party gift. This is for you. It is pink duct tape. Yes, you. Come on up. Come get it. I'm not running in heels. Pink duct tape, because it made me think when I was in the store today, it made me think of stick to it. Stick to it. And you can be pink and still be strong and still be tough and not have to worry about it. Okay, our next question.
I have a short comment. When I was a little girl, and I'm a Canaan alumni, I wanted to be president. I didn't know that years later in my career, I'd be president of 5 companies. And today, I sit here not knowing that you women have inspired me even today. So I just wanted to thank you all for an inspiration for me.
So you can still be president.
My question is, how do you push through a tough time? When you're going through a tough time, how do you push through it? Do you have any habits that you do? Do you have any advice when you're going through a tough time yourself? What do you do in that situations?
That one's easy for me. I pray. My strength comes from the Lord and my relationship with Him. And it's usually during those times that I'm on my knees crying even more. I'm a single mom. My son and I have been alone together since he was about 8 months old. He's 18 now. And I gotta say, probably the most challenging times in my life have been raising that boy. Those are the times where I found myself mostly on my knees. But whatever that might be for you, just figure out what it is that brings you that peace and the joy that you need. But also just surrounding yourself with a really core, good group of authentic friends is. Well, and if that's what for you is important, if you find strength in that relationship, then that's wonderful. And again, having a core good group of friends that are authentic and real and get you and understand you is what I would say for me has been important, having a good support. Oh yeah, and then a glass of wine.
If you're over 21, have a glass of wine.
I think Abina wanted to add in also.
Yeah, no, I would say staying positive. So you're going to have a lot of challenges in life, either with family, with work, with friends, but just staying positive and looking at the bigger picture and surrounding yourself with positive people, because like bad friends will dig you in a deeper hole. So have yourself around positive people and just think, you know what, you can go through this and you'll be out of it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Barksdale and proud Keene grad, 95, after working 3 jobs, 10 years at night. So, and I serve on the foundation board with Maria as chair of board development. I'm on the advisory board for the Global Business School as well, and always happy to come out and participate. I have a comment. You know, I am extremely impressed with this panel and with the audience for 2 reasons. One, the key words that we're hearing tonight about leadership, hearing from Judy and about, how, don't be afraid to be the odd one out, because in my industry, in my career, and in my lifetime, I always felt like the odd one out, because, my brother was 11 months older, so I loved to play football, and, wasn't good with ballet. But when we think about politics, political arenas, and we vote, but we also have to be cognizant of how we spend our dollars, what we support, and being conscious of where are the women in the room when we're not in the room. And by that I mean when you are in a major corporation, taking a look at who's on the board. Because we recently lost a lot of key women in key positions in companies in our country. DuPont, okay, Ellen, she's no longer, leading DuPont. Ursula Burns, no longer leading Xerox. So from a socially conscious perspective, let's take a look at, who we're supporting, who we're voting for, not from the political standpoint, but more so from the corporate standpoint. And when you spend your dollars, don't be afraid to say, well, how many women are on your board? Don't be afraid to say, well, how many women represent managerial positions? Or how many women in this particular, company, even if it's a small company, are, in key positions. It doesn't have to be the big conglomerate. It can be at the small level, and that's how we start to, again, pull each other up and support one another. So it was just a comment, and I'm really happy to be hearing the experiences.
All right. Laura, I think we're going to do one more audience question, because then we want to leave some time for you guys to speak with each other at your tables as well.
So as you go through your careers, what was some of the best advice you received from men, and how did it support you or perhaps provide a different perspective?
You stumped them. So I'll start that. As far as the best advice I've ever received from a man, it would have to be from my dad. So my dad wanted sons, and God blessed him with 2 fantastic daughters. So he raised my sister and I to go ahead and wear dresses, but don't be afraid to play with cars and climb trees and just get out there. And he always told us, whatever boys can do, you can do better.
My dad also gave me the best advice. He said, whenever you get into a fight, punch them in the nose, because when they'll bleed first, and then they won't want to fight anymore. And men will always be boys. So I think that concludes our Q&A session, and now I think we're going to wrap it up with our lovely leader here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think you have to press the button up while you send that.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, feel like the commercial. Can you hear me now? Well, it's been a great discussion. It's been very active. It's been a tough night to get out, and I was glad that everyone got to be here tonight and be with us. And I want to thank Laura for moderating this panel. You did a great job. Great job. And thank the panelists and the speakers for participating and really enlightening us and with their wisdom and their experiences. And I think that you have done all women proud. Don't we think? Absolutely, absolutely. I also like to thank everyone in the audience and thank you for your participation, and hopefully this gives each of you an idea what actually happens when women lead. Absolutely, absolutely. So now for the rest of the evening, I would like to invite the students and the alumni and professionals and everyone to continue the conversation and the network with one another. The tables have been labeled by industry to help you guide your discussion. So once again, I want to, on behalf of Kean University, on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to thank putting this program together. You did a great, great job. All the good to you. I'll make sure I mention at the next board meeting, okay? Absolutely. Okay, so thank you all. So have a wonderful remainder of the night and just, network and have fun and welcome to Kane. Come back to Kane and go for it. Women lead, we're good. Let's go to the gala.